I gotta ask this. Since you've flown halfway around the world, do you still believe the earth is flat?
I felt like that question was gonna come, man. And for me, it's not about whether the world is flat, whether the world is round. It's really about just everyone just believing what they want to believe and feeling comfortable with it. I'm not a scientist. I'm not here to tell everyone that this is it. For me, it's just giving everyone a chance to do their own research and find their own knowledge rather than having knowledge just shoved to you. So,
I'm asked questions all the time about what's my status, and I'm like, man, if you were in my position, it would be easy for someone to say, well, why don't you just get vaccinated? But you're not. And that's just the reality of it. And I've made my decision already, and I'm standing on it.
Where were you when I was a kid, figuring out that 300 million of my ancestors are buried in America? Where were you guys asking those same questions when I was a kid learning about the traumatic events of my familial history and what I'm proud to come from and why I'm proud to stand here? And why, when I repeat myself that I'm not going to stand down, it has nothing to do with dismissing any other race or group of people. I'm just proud of my heritage and what we've been through. And the fact that this has pinned me against the Jewish community. And I'm here answering questions of whether or not I'm sorry or not on something I didn't create. And it was something I shared. And I'm telling everybody I'm taking responsibility. Then that's where I sit.
Hey, what's good everybody? It's your boy Seethruthescript here, and today I want to talk about a man who has been a hot topic in the news and in the NBA world as of recent, and that man goes by the name of Kyrie Andrew Irving. Now, as many of you have probably heard already, Kyrie Irving is currently facing the wrath of the mainstream media due to a recent documentary that he shared via a tweet. This ultimately led to his recent suspension of 5 games, and apparently that could be extended, but shit, I don't know. I don't keep up with the NBA like that. However, here is the cover to the film. To avoid any vicious censorship myself, I'll avoid saying its name. Now, like usual, before I begin, I want to give a disclaimer that I am not the final authority on any topic I discuss. I'm just presenting my observations using numerology and date numerology and my own critical thought. I am not agreeing nor disagreeing with Kyrie Irving's claims or stances, but compiling his conspiratorial past as an NBA athlete to share with the rest of y'all and create an open space for discussion and opinion. So in short, if you're new to the channel and you come across this video and you find yourself one of those people to be easily offended or triggered, as they like to say, I recommend just leaving now. Kyrie Andrew Irving was born March 23rd in 1992 in Melbourne, Australia. His father, Jesuits Reuben Irving, played in the Australian National Basketball League for the Boleyn Boomers in 1992 through 1994. Kyrie's family later moved back to the States when he was just 2 years old. During Kyrie's high school days, he made quite the impression at Montclair Kimberly Academy, a private school in New Jersey, where he played for his first 2 years of high school. He then later transferred to St. Patrick High School in Elizabeth, New Jersey to finish up. Now, it wasn't long before his successful time in high school that he went on to play at Duke University for a total of 11 games. On June 23rd of 2011, Kyrie Irving was drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers, beginning the start of his very interesting NBA career. Now, this video is going to explore the question of whether or not Kyrie Irving is truly an honest conspiracy theorist / athlete, or if he's just another controlled opposition being used for a greater yet more sinister purpose. Again, I don't claim to have all the answers, but through my findings, you as the viewer can decide on what you think. Without further ado, let's break this down by the numbers. From Kyrie's 19th birthday to him being drafted on June 23rd of 2011 was a span of 93 days. Notice the phrase conspiracy theorist equals 93 in the most pure cipher. This phrase will be a big proponent of today's video as discussed. Now, let's fast forward to February of 2017 when Kyrie Irving was the guest on a podcast titled Road Trippin'. This episode was released on February 17th of 2017. In episode 7, Kyrie was asked by the host his take on aliens, which he agreed that there were some form of extraterrestrials within the universe, but he then switches the topic to ask, "Do you think the Earth is round?" to the interviewers, at which they both stated yes. Kyrie then took it a little farther by stating he believes the Earth is flat, and that a lot of what they tell us in this world isn't what it seems. Now, I myself can definitely agree that nothing is truly what it seems. However, it was at this moment that caused quite the media frenzy with the press, publishing loads of headlines stating that Kyrie Irving is a flat earther and claiming many other things about him, as you can see in these sensational headlines. Now, there's a few things to take into consideration, at least numerically speaking. Notice it was on episode 7 of the podcast when they discussed many conspiracies with Kyrie Irving. Now, how fitting that this topic was brought up with none other than Kyrie Irving, whose name equals 147 and 75, like the word conspiracy, which equals 147 and 57. 57 and 75 being reflections of each other, and for those who are unaware within numerology, reflections are just as important. So, beyond that, shortly after that interview, Kyrie was labeled a flat earther, which is simply someone who believes the earth is flat. Notice flat earther equals 51 in the most pure cipher, like the word conspiracy in the same cipher. I mean, was Kyrie Irving really being honest about his stance on the earth, or is he being used to make a mockery of conspiracies as a whole? I'm not saying he is, but I'm not saying he isn't. Just yet, at least. Now, of course, just like when any entertainer steps out of line, he or she is often forced to apologize for simply having a different opinion, which Kyrie Irving did end up later doing on October 1st of 2018. After Kyrie's apology, he managed to stay out of the media for anything non-basketball related for a good while. However, it wasn't until the time of C19 when the league was putting policies in place to make sure all of their players had to take the C19 jab. Now, obviously around this time, there was a lot of conspiracies making the rounds surrounding what was in the jab and if it was safe or not to take. Now, I myself have made my stance very clear surrounding the jab in many previous videos and IG posts, but that's neither here nor there. However, yet again, around this time, many were split on Kyrie's stance on the jab, as tons out there stood with Kyrie and his choice to refuse it, while others thought he was being very irresponsible regarding his decision, granted the influence he has as an NBA athlete. Now, here's another thing I found interesting regarding this whole narrative. Notice COVID-19 vaccination equals 93, matching with conspiracy theorist in the same cipher. I bring this up because during the early stages of the whole pandemic, you would be immediately labeled a conspiracy theorist simply for refusing to take the C19 jab. And I just find it interesting, Kyrie, the NBA athlete that seems to be so involved in conspiracies, also the same player drafted 93 days from his 19th birthday, would be the one to be so outspoken. So, I mean, again, is this all organic in your eyes, or was this all planned from the start? Let's continue. Kyrie Irving himself even stated during the time of the Flat Earth controversy, quote, "I was definitely at that time like, I'm a big conspiracy theorist, you can't tell me anything." Now, from Kyrie's controversial Flat Earth take to his stance on the C19 jab, he decided to take it a step farther, at least in the eyes of the media, by tweeting a link to this documentary. Here is now the deleted tweet. Notice he released this tweet on October 27th of 2022, which is a span of 7 months and 5 days from his 30th birthday. Or if you're counting the days towards his next birthday, it was a span of 147 days. Remember, Kyrie Andrew Irving, his full name equals 75, but also remember that the word conspiracy and his name without his middle name at least, Kyrie Irving, equals 147 in gematria. This really makes me think, is this man really putting out this info on his own accord, or is this all a numerical ritual unfolding before our very eyes? What makes this even crazier is that the title of the documentary he shared on Twitter equals 147, as you can see here, just like Kyrie Irving and the word conspiracy, and the fact that he dropped that tweet exactly 147 days from his upcoming 31st birthday to me is very suspicious. Now, the backlash that came after this was extreme ridicule from his peers within the league for promoting anti-Semitism. Well, they, and I think y'all know exactly who I mean when I say they, here's a quick hint, and it rhymes with dues, even went as far as buying courtside seats wearing a shirt that read "Fight Anti-Semitism" while glaring at Kyrie Irving in hopes of pressuring him to apologize. Remember, the NBA commissioner Adam Silver is one of them as well and was very vocal about his disagreements with Kyrie's views. And I mean, come on, for a group that's so oppressed, I mean, to buy courtside seats to sit right by the athlete to basically mock him and pressure him, yeah, I mean, that screams oppressed, all right. What I couldn't help but notice was the gematria of the phrase "fight anti-Semitism." Notice it equals 201, a number we talk about over and over again on this channel. The number ties back to none other than the Jesuit order, but also notice how State of Israel equals 201 as well. Not to go too deep, but the nation was completely founded by the numbers. Remember, it's the JEWs that are the practitioners of Kabbalah, which is a very complicated methodology that ultimately involves the practice I am using to decode this story, being gematria. To provide further context, they do things by the numbers across the world. Notice it was on May 14th, 1948, when Israel was declared a nation under the power of the Zionist statesman and the first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. Notice his name equals 145, similar to how the nation of Israel was recognized on May 14th, written 14/5 on that side of the world. All these leaders are carefully chosen, and nothing is by coincidence. All things we see in the world that come out of the mainstream media is controlled and very well calculated. For those unaware of the connection between the JEWs and the Jesuits, allow me to read this quote from the book Studies in the Spirituality of the Jesuits, St. Ignatius of Loyola and the JEWs by James W. Wrights, S.J. Pedro de Ribadeneira, S.J., was a Spanish Jesuit priest. He went on to write, "Many Jews, moved by the love of our fellow Jesuits or the good example of some of their own who were already baptized, were converted to our faith. Among them were some of the most respected Jews who were highly important for converting others because they could clearly and forcefully persuade the other Jews, showing them from Scripture that Jesus Christ, our Lord, is the real promised Messiah." I only share this because I want you, the viewers, to see how deeply connected all of this is and why these two groups have so much power in today's society. And I should have said it earlier, but for those who don't know, St. Ignatius of Loyola is the founder of the Society of Jesus, aka the Jesuit Order. Now, to get back on track, the reason I'm making this video is to open a discussion as to whether Kyrie Irving is a genuine conspiracy theorist looking out for the people, or if he's just another controlled opposition set up to distract and confuse. Well, here's some more numerical observations that I noticed. Kyrie Andrew Irving, his full name equals 104, 103, and 247. This also perfectly matches with the phrase controlled opposition, which equals the same besides the 274, which is an anagram of the number 247. Now, before I go on, it's important we understand what controlled opposition is. I mean, some of you already know, but for those who don't, a while back on my Instagram, I had shared a video regarding the meaning on controlled opposition. Let's just listen real quick.
The most corporal part of being controlled opposition, making it appear as though the system is trying to tear you down in order to give people the impression that you work against the system rather than for it.
Alright, so listening to that clip I posted a while back, it seems quite clear that a controlled opposition is someone that simply plays both sides. When a person or a group plays both sides, it allows them to have the utmost control as to what the outcome would be, this being the benefit of playing both sides. I thought it was interesting to mention that because Kyrie Andrew Irving, his full name, matches in the reverse ordinal with the phrase playing both sides, both equaling 247. And remember, controlled opposition also equals 274 in the same cipher, which is an anagram of the number 247. Again, it makes me think, are they just using Kyrie for another purpose? In my opinion, again, this isn't 100% facts, so don't get too triggered, but I think Kyrie at some point in his career was made aware that he would be used by the elite very early on in his career to set an example for all of us that if you're an entertainer of any form, in this case an athlete, and you try to speak on conspiratorial topics, they will bash you in the media, destroy your major deals, and overall attempt to tear down your image. They do this because it strikes fear in people's minds that they simply just can't speak out without the risk of losing money and having their image destroyed over a difference in opinion. Some question if Kyrie is really behind what he's preaching, and again, in my opinion, if he was, he would have been long gone a while ago. Maybe not for his flat earth take, but definitely for his stance on C19 and his views on the you-know-whos. Just to throw it out there though, Mr. Nick Cannon not too long ago had an interview with Professor Griff from Public Enemy on his podcast, talking about the same very thing that Kyrie Irving got in trouble for tweeting a documentary of. And not only was Nick Cannon forced to take down that episode and almost lost his other major deals, I actually think he did lose like a TV show that he was hosting, he also had to have a member of the you-know-who community come on his podcast and educate him on the real history of the you-know-whos. So this is something that has happened many times in the past, and it usually turns out that the celebrity ends up on their knees apologizing. So before I go any further, check out this clip from Damon Wayans in the 90s at one of his stand-up shows where he talks about how black men in the entertainment industry get a little too comfortable and end up being used as pawns to favor the agendas of the elite, or the so-called elite for that matter. And in return, they get to keep their deals and money and whatever else comes with it. So yeah, check this out.
I just don't want to get too comfortable. Brothers can't afford to get too comfortable, you know? Because that's when you become the pawn. That's when they use you as. Anytime white people want to smooth some shit over, they go get that rich nigga and put you on TV to represent the people, you know? You have you asking you questions like, Damon, now that you made this $13 million, and we're not counting. Now that you made all this money, let me ask you this. Let me just throw this out at you. You respond any way you want. Is there racism in America? You be sitting there thinking about that paycheck, talking about, no, sir. If and there is, I ain't seen none. I ain't selling out. If I do, I get the hell out. You know?
Alright, so now that you heard that, let's take a look at a real life example of two black individuals in the NBA community pretty much shilling for the agenda, and yeah, it's nothing short of mockery. Take a look.
And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. You know, I stand for equality of all people.
Why we kicked that, you know, out of the archives, because it was hate conversation going on there, and I don't represent that. You know, there's no place in this world for it. Nobody can benefit from that, and I believe you know what Kyrie did caused some harm to a lot of people, and he has since over the last, I think today or was it yesterday, he apologized, but he caused some harm, and I think it's unfortunate, but I don't stand on the position to harm people when it comes to your voice or your platform or anything. And so it doesn't matter what color your skin is, how tall you are, what position you are in. If you are promoting or soliciting or saying harmful things to any community that harm people, then I don't respect it. I don't condone it.
Alright, so granted that I'm speaking about the JEWs, it's very important we mention the number 11 and its meaning and how it ties in heavily with Mr. Kyrie Irving. First, let's start with the number 11 and how it's followed Kyrie throughout his and his father's career. Well, Kyrie's father was also a basketball player, born on January 11th, 1996. During his time at Boston University, he wore the jersey number 11. Now, in Kyrie's last 2 years of high school at St. Patrick's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, notice like his father, he wore the number 11. However, when Kyrie was at Duke University, he wore the number 1 on his jersey. It's important to remember the number 11 is simply a rep digit compiled of 2 ones. But what's even more interesting is that he only played for a total of 11 games at Duke University before getting drafted into the NBA in the year 2011. Emphasis on the 11. When Kyrie Irving was drafted, he played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, wearing the jersey number 2. Well, what happens when you reduce the number 11? It's 1 + 1 equaling 2. Not to mention, he was the first pick in round 1 of the 2011 draft, another 1-1 connection. However, after Kyrie's time on the Cavaliers, he went over to the Boston Celtics where he wore the infamous number 11, only to carry it over to his current team, the Brooklyn Nets. As you can see, the number 11 is very important to Kyrie. But what does the number 11 mean? Allow me to read from Zach Hubbard's first book titled Letters and Numbers, where he states, "The number 11 is said to be the most powerful number because it encompasses the digit 1, the only number dividing into all numbers, symbolizing God in doing so, and because it also breaks down to 2, the next most powerful number only behind number 1. In the Holy Bible, the Son of God is said to be Jesus, which, as we learned in reduction, is a name equaling to 11, which once again corresponds perfectly with the 66 books of most Bibles. In case you have forgotten, the number 66 is the 11th triangular number, meaning if you add 1 through 11 together, it totals 66. Of course, the 66th and concluding book of the Bible, Revelation, which is 22 chapters long, is about the return of Jesus. Also, as we learned, resurrection sums to 66 in the reduction method, the same way Jesus equals to 11. Further, the story of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, an 11-letter name, comes from the 89 chapters of the Gospel, where number 89 is the 11th Fibonacci number. It is said that people who have birth numerology of 11 are natural-born leaders. It is a coveted number in this study, and there can be no doubt it is coded into the name of Jesus for all that it symbolizes in the language of numerology, the master number. It is the same reason Kabbalah sums to 11 in Hebrew reduction gematria as covered. In terms of English gematria, the word master also factors into 11. As you can see, the number 11 is a very important number within numerology and clearly to Kyrie Irving himself. But also notice Kyrie starts with the letter K, which is the 11th letter in the alphabet, and currently he has been suspended from the NBA after the JEWs felt offended by his recent tweet. Notice JEW in gematria equals the number 11 in the most pure cipher. Alright, I don't want to get off track or anything, but there is another black entertainer with a whole bunch of influence who recently had spoken out about the JEWs, and his name starts with a K as well. That man goes by the name of Kanye West. Now, notice the word black equals 11 in the most pure cipher. Now, we have two massive entertainers, both facing the wrath of the JEW-owned media after speaking out about them in a different light, to say the least. Now, again, it makes me wonder, are these two men simply the chosen ones to be used as an example by the cabal to show people that speaking out will only get you in trouble, especially when it's about a certain group of people, or are they doing this out of their pure passion for the truth? It's worth mentioning the word Hebrew in gematria equals 101. Remember, zeros are null, leaving us with the number 11. Think about how the number 11 looks like two pillars. If anybody is familiar with Freemasonry, you would recognize these two pillars shown here. These pillars have deep meaning, stemming from Solomon's temple, which was built by a man who many believed was a pagan. His name was Hiram. The two pillars were named Boaz and Yakin. Both these columns, as you may be aware, have a Hebrew translation from the Old Testament. The etymology can thus be explained. The word Yakin in Hebrew was pronounced Yakain, meaning firm, upright, or stable. Boaz, on the other hand, is Baz, meaning power or might. The one on the right means he shall establish, and the second in it is strength. One thing you may not be aware of is that these columns were imitations created by Hiram, the Trian artist, and similar columns stood at the entrance of the famous temple of Melkart in the city of Tyre. I bring this all up because I personally believe the Freemason Jesuit / JEW cabal is using Kyrie and slapping their esoteric symbolism all over him, from his tattoos to his jersey number to his gematria. Again, all for the purpose of striking fear into the others and the common day folk that if you try to speak out, we will destroy you. Now, is Kyrie really being destroyed? Well, behind the scenes, things can be very different than how they seem on the media. So I want to end this off by saying, no, I'm not trying to bash Kyrie Irving, as I do agree with some of his stances. However, that doesn't mean because he shared or said certain things that he is completely on the side of the people. I think it's important for us to observe all things and be conscious before completely agreeing with someone because of their celebrity status. Again, I cannot stress enough, I am not hating or full out supporting Kyrie in any manner. Honestly, celebrities aren't worth hating anyways, because hate requires your negative energy, and that is something I just don't want to exert. Anyways, people, that's my take on Kyrie Irving and all his surrounding controversy. But please tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Am I wrong? Is Kyrie Irving genuinely a conspiracy theorist on our side, trying to battle the wicked group of globalists? Or is he simply just controlled opposition being used to toy with our emotions? Let me know down below. Also, y'all know the drill. If I missed anything or if anything I explained is incorrect, please inform me in the comments below. The last thing I want to do is mislead you, the viewers. I am also open to discussion, but if you're simply gonna troll and hate and say like, this is cap, this is a reach, and I know you didn't watch more than like 2 minutes of the video, like fuck out of here, man. Like come on. But for real, thank you for those who stuck around and watched the whole thing. It's greatly appreciated. As always, be sure to beat the hell out of that like button, drop a comment, share the video, and most importantly, subscribe, man. Remember, all of those things are free to do. One love, it's your boy Script, and I'm out of here. Peace. 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 Peace.